In this world, around 30 years ago, a spatial quake caused a catastrophe that resulted in the death of 150 million people. This would leave anyone terrified, but the hero of this story is going to become the king of a group of girls thanks to the humble sacrifice of those people. The hero of this story is so lucky that he was already born rewarded, having a beautiful sister named Katori who tries to wake him up every morning. But he, still half asleep, says that if she keeps trying to wake him up, he will end up punching her in the ribs. The name of this perfect brother is Shido, and after punching his sister's ribs, he gets up and prepares breakfast. They watch the news reporting the appearance of spatial quakes. The reporter explains that ever since the first event that happened 30 years ago, other spatial quakes appeared during the 5 following years. But in the last 25 years, none had been recorded until that moment, when suddenly one shows up in the city where Shido lives. Without giving much importance to the report, the siblings keep having breakfast. Later, on the way to school, Katori says that she wants to go to a restaurant for lunch and forces her brother Shido to promise that one day he will take her there. He says that he will only help her if she manages to get him a gothic girlfriend, and then they see a group of girls watching the two of them. The girls are wondering whether those two are really siblings. And at that moment, one of Shido's friends appears, saying that he looks like a human who would devour his own sister. After arriving in the classroom, Shido discovers that Origami, the smartest girl in the school, seems to know him. Although he and his friend do not understand the reason, Shido is happy for having been born attractive, unlike his friend. On that same day, they also meet the new teacher, named Tamai, and after the beginning of class, a siren echoes through the city, warning everyone about the danger of a new spatial quake, and the entire population is instructed to evacuate to safe shelters. However, Shido becomes worried about his sister, who is not answering the phone. He tries to convince himself that it is only because of the confusion in the shelters. But when he checks, he realizes that Katori is in a restaurant, the same one he had demanded a gothic friend to take her to. Desperate, Shido runs through the city searching for his sister. He cannot lose his little sister, since she is the only one who can introduce him to some nice girls. And it is at that moment that a spatial quake strikes the area, causing a huge explosion. Shido survives, and in the center of the crater left by the destruction, he sees a mysterious girl. She is not gothic, but her cosplayer appearance catches his attention. She, acting like a true lunatic, approaches him, threatening him and asking whether he also wishes to devour her body. Shido is left speechless, since deep down he was already in love with her, and almost tried. And at that instant Origami appears together with a group of anti-spirit soldiers. So the entire anti-spirit squad is completely destroyed. Shido watches all of this happen and realizes that despite all the strength and power the girl has, she seems to lack attention from her father, so he believes he has a chance with her. After a sequence of attacks, Origami manages to strike the cosplayer, and a bright, intense light explodes, covering everything around. At that moment, Shido sees a vision of a girl speaking to him, as if they already knew each other, promising that she will never leave him again. He becomes excited for having visions of a beautiful girl, and sometime later he wakes up, being treated by Dr. Hain. This makes him thank God, since he was helped by a beautiful doctor. And right after that she takes him to Kyohei to explain the situation. Right afterward, he meets Katori again, who now reveals herself as the commander of an organization with a very complicated name, which he has already forgotten. She explains that what happened was a confrontation with a spirit. According to her, the phenomenon of spatial quakes is caused by spirits. When they appear on Earth, the anti-spirit team tries to eliminate them, to prevent more disaster. For Shido, it is quite shocking to learn that beautiful girls are dying. However, the organization Katori is part of has found a method to prevent the disasters, and this method involves Shido. He ends up being forced to train, and then asks his sister how she was in the area where the cosplayer spirit appeared. His sister ends up revealing that their base is airborne, staying 15,000 meters above the city. Shido is shocked, since according to him that distance is greater than the size of his pistol. And after all of this, on the second day of class, Hain arrives as an assistant teacher. After introducing herself, she takes Shido to Katori, who shows him his new role in the mission against spirits. She says that he will finally have a chance to talk to some friends. He does not understand it very well, so she says that his job is to win over the spirits. He is shocked, since he cannot even win over his own sister. And besides this shocking news, he discovers through Origami herself that her parents died because of a spirit, and that is why she wishes to punish all of them, even those who are innocent. Sometime later, we see Shido training to get girls in a dating simulator, and for pure reasons, he is following the correct route to win over his sister. After finishing that part, he goes to meet Hain and Katori, who are about to begin phase 2 of his training. The two decide to send Shido on a new mission, attempt to flirt with his teacher, Adamai. However, since Shido is not exactly good at romance, Katori gives him some forced assistance to help him remotely during the process. He tells the teacher that he is a subscriber of the Batmanimes channel, and the teacher ends up becoming completely obsessed with him. So if you also want your love to become obsessed with you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This forces Shido to run desperately through the school hallways, since he does not want to lose his virginity right there. He wants to wait for a gothic girl. During his escape, he bumps into Origami. He completely forgets that he wanted a gothic girl and tries his luck with her as well. But he soon realizes that Origami is far stranger than she seems. She does some curious things, such as staring at him for long periods and even smelling his clothes, showing a completely unexpected interest in him. For Shido, it is only fun to hit on a girl when she intends to reject him. So he invites her to see the room of a hotel, and she accepts immediately. Shido had already forgotten completely about his promise with goth girls of the world, and intended to finally become a real man. But alarms begin to sound. Unfortunately, a new spatial quake is detected, and everyone runs to their emergency positions. Meanwhile, the same mysterious girl from the first incident appears at the school, destroying the building in the blink of an eye. In the middle of this chaos, Shido manages to go after the spirit girl, since one of his dreams is to date a cosplayer. Besides that, he cannot stand seeing such a beautiful and sad girl. When he finally finds this girl, he notices that she does not recognize him. At the same time, Katori's team detects a mental anomaly in her, which makes everyone rush to decide what Shido must say to win over this cosplayer. As soon as he says that he found her beautiful, the girl points at him, forcing him to introduce himself and say his name. Even so, she does not remember him, so Shido decides to start from zero. The conversation begins again, and Shido, with Katori's help, tries to seduce her awkwardly. However, he begins talking about how much he loves Sonic, and the girl understands nothing and becomes irritated. Realizing that he will not win her over by talking about Sonic, he changes his approach. He says that he does not want to fight a cosplayer and tells her that he does not see her as an enemy, and that in Japan she can win many awards in cosplayer events. These words reach deeply into the girl's heart. Incredibly, she becomes emotional and lowers her guard, accepting Shido. She allows him to become her event manager, and from that point the two begin talking about what her name should be when she becomes famous. It is at that moment that he decides to call her Thoka. However, right after they choose the name, the anti-spirit squad attacks. In the middle of this crossfire, Thoka asks Shido to run away before he gets hurt, but he refuses to leave her side. During the confrontation, Shido discovers that Thoka did not even know she was a spirit. According to her, one day she simply woke up out of nowhere in this world, as if she had jumped from the past into the future. She was immediately attacked, and honestly, she does not know what it means to be a cosplayer. She only accepted being one because she is tired of being attacked by everyone in this world. To make things worse, her memories are confused and fragmented, leaving her lost about who she really is and where she came from. Suddenly, without warning, Katori and everyone else order Shido to advance and kiss Thoka. With no choice, Shido accepts his mission and invites the cosplayer to a romantic date. But before he can progress, Origami appears flying. Believing that Shido has been taken hostage by the evil spirit, she immediately attacks Thoka, and the two enter combat, fulfilling Shido's dream of seeing two beautiful girls fighting for him. However, Thoka is far more powerful, and with a single strike, she knocks Origami down, leaving her seriously injured. Shido, shocked by the scene, realizes that battles between beautiful women are sad, and deep down, he only wanted to see them with a smile on their faces. Thoka leaves, and on the next day Shido visits the ruins of the destroyed school, where he finds Thoka. Somehow, they arrange their date, and we will assume it happened through telepathy. Unfortunately, she appears wearing a school uniform, trying to blend in better with human, which lowers Shido's excitement and almost makes him lose interest in her. On the way, they pass by a bakery, and Thoka becomes completely fascinated with the horrible Japanese breads that could give anyone food poison. Seeing the sparkle in her eyes, Shido buys the bread made with the tears of those who cried watching Aken ga kill, and the naive Thoka believes that the date will soon lead them to having a child. But she quickly realizes that Shido is not like the men from her world. The boy is a true gentleman. As they walk, Thoka becomes confused at the sight of several people gathered and thinks it is an enemy attack. She prepares to drop a nuclear bomb, killing herself and everyone around. Shido really wanted to see the world explode, but he is still a virgin, so he stops her. Soon after, Thoka watches a boy being praised by his mother for taking out the trash correctly. She has never been praised, so she imitates the gesture to receive the same approval from Shido. At the same time, Origami secretly follows them from the shadows. Farther ahead, they arrive at a luxury restaurant, where Tanamachi, a friend of Shido, sees them and congratulates him. wishing him a death filled with pain and suffering for going out with such a beautiful girl. Upon entering, Shido notices that Kotori and Riani are in disguise. They are monitoring the date from a distance, guiding his actions to stop Shido from talking about Sonic again. The poor guy only has hyperfocus on Sonic, and they will not even let him say what he wants. But thanks to their help, the couple is directed to a street full of food stalls, where many vendors offer free samples for Thoka to try. Without hesitation, she devours everything, while Shido watches, wishing that by the end of the day she would devour him too. Noticing the predator-like expression in his eyes, Thoka believes he is not having fun. But in reality, he is just thinking that one day Sega might kill Sonic in a movie, and he will be very sad. To make him more comfortable, Thoka holds his hand, making Shido start thinking with the head below again. At one of the stalls, they receive tickets for a special attraction, secretly prepared by Kotori to reinforce their emotional connection. However, since Shido knows that Kotori only likes things with tentacles, he decides to take Thoka away from there as fast as possible. Apparently, Kotori learned from the author of Dragonar, who also likes things with tentacles. Meanwhile, Origami prepares to attack Thoka again. Back on the date, the rain begins to fall, and Shido takes Thoka to the arcade to defeat her in Mortal Kombat. Before that, they try their luck on a claw machine, in which he has never been able to grab any plushie. Thoka tries several times but fails, and when the machine finally allows a win, Shido steps in and grabs the plushie as if he were good at anything. The innocent Thoka is happy, proudly displaying the toy. When the rain stops, they head to a secluded place. They sit down to watch the sunset, and at that moment Thoka confesses that she had a lot of fun going out with him, even though he is a virgin. Shido asks how she knows that, and she reveals that his obsession with Sonic made it obvious. Right after, she says she understood why she is always attacked when she arrives in this world. Unfortunately, she and other spirits cause spatial quakes when they arrive in Shido's world. Because of that, she believes she should no longer appear in the human world. But Shido interrupts her, saying she is very beautiful and therefore may cause all the destruction she wants, especially on his body. Meanwhile, Origami watches everything from afar, ready to act. At the same time, Shido assures Thoka that she can remain in the human world and live in his house. At that moment, the psychopathic girl fires, and Shido notices in time, pushing Thoka away. Receiving the first gunshot of his life, Thoka believes he died and becomes very sad, since even though he was an idiot, Shido was actually fun. Irritated, she returns to her spirit form, wielding a powerful sacred sword, and unleashes a power that devastates the surrounding area. At the same time, Origami cannot believe that the idiot Shido gave his life for an enemy. Kotori monitors the situation, noticing that her brother survived the shot. When Thoka is about to deliver the final blow against Origami, Shido appears flying toward her and hugs her, asking her to calm down. However, Thoka loses control of her sword, since she intended to drop about 10 nuclear bombs on Japan, and canceling that suddenly is impossible. To calm her down, Shido performs the only gesture capable of sealing Thoka's power, which in this case is a kiss. With that, Thoka's sword and spiritual outfit vanish into particles of light, and she collapses exhausted in his arms, asking what he just did. Some time earlier, after an incident on a rainy day, Shido walks toward school. On the way, he finds a little girl standing in front of a shrine. Frightened when she sees him, she asks him not to hurt her, but he says he is not into underage girls and has no idea what is going on. Later, already at school, Thoka tries to give Shido some radioactive cookies she made herself. At that moment, Origami appears and apologizes for having shot him, shocking everyone. But what truly surprises the class is that Origami also brought cookies, which begins a heated dispute between the two to see which cookie Shido will devour first. Little do they know that he wants both of them, and I am not talking about cookies. After classes, Shido passes by the shrine again, where he saw the little girl. He imagines her as an adult and realizes that maybe he should invest his time in her. At home, while trying to take a bath, he is shocked to discover that Thoka is now living with him. The girls explain that although Shido sealed Toka's power with a kiss, if she experiences a strong emotional shock again, her power will awaken. For that reason, they decided it is best for her to stay close to them, since his horrible jokes calm her down. In addition, Kotori reveals that Thoka is not the only free spirit in the world, there are others out there. Hearing that, Shido realizes he can now become a Pokemon master, capturing girls and spirits and making them live in his house. But what saddens him now is that Thoka is acting like a normal girl. He wanted to see her in cosplay all day, and unfortunately he feels nothing for ordinary girls. His sister knows very well that Shido is attracted to the wrong things, so Kotori begins to train her brother with field situations, such as sending Shido to the bathroom when Thoka is inside, intentionally provoking misunderstandings. Maybe that way Shido will feel something for normal girls. But annoyed, Shido uses his sister's body care products, making her furious. As revenge, she sends Toka into the bathroom exactly when Shido is taking a shower, making her discover how small his little pistol is. The next day, Shido arrives at school and realizes his routine is far from returning to normal. Toka and Origami spend the break fighting to have lunch with him, competing for his attention more intensely each time. He is already becoming disgusted with the two of them, and fortunately the city alarm goes off, indicating that a new spatial quake has been detected. Since Toka's powers are sealed, she is considered an ordinary human, and therefore follows the other students to the shelter. Shido and Rioni head to the base where Kotori awaits them. There they discover that although the detected quake is weak, there is a spirit present. So the spirit hunters spring into action, but Shido is shocked when he sees the footage. He ends up recognizing the girl. She is the same little one he encountered at the shrine on that rainy day, the same girl who will be a goth when she grows up. Shido does not think twice and begs his sister to let him help the girl. Kotori did not know he liked little girls, but Shido says he is only thinking about her future. Soon after, he is transported to the location where the spirit is. There, he discovers that she communicates through a stuffed rabbit she calls Yoshinin. Through it, the girl introduces herself as Yoshino. The girl seems a bit shy, so Shido tries to ease the mood by inviting her to watch the new Sonic movie. Meanwhile, Toka begins to worry about what is happening outside the shelter and decides to go after Shido on her own. On the way to the movie, Yoshino accidentally bumps into Shido and the two end up kissing by accident. Shido is disgusted by the author's decision to force a scene like this, but the author does not like that and rewinds time, making Toka arrive just in time to see him kissing another girl. He tries to explain the misunderstanding, but the little girl's puppet says Shido prefers little girls. Irritated, Toka rips the puppet from her hands, which makes Yoshino panic. Without her puppet, she loses emotional control and summons a giant creature made of ice. Scared and confused, Yoshino flees, leaving a trail of destruction wherever she goes. Meanwhile, Toka becomes sad and insecure, wondering if she is Shido's favorite. Upset by the confusion, she refuses to see him. Not understanding what she feels, she looks for Rioni to ask for advice. Rioni listens patiently and explains that what Toka is feeling is jealousy. She also remembers that Shido has already protected her with his own life, proving his feelings for her. Back on the battlefield, Shido finds Yoshino again, wandering in search of her lost puppet. He then discovers that the Yoshinin doll is a personality she created, a representation that says incorrect things a child could never say. Yoshino explains that Yoshinin is the symbol of everything she wishes to be: strong, cheerful, and prejudiced. Since she is fragile and shy, she ends up depending on Yoshinin to express her thoughts. Hearing this, Shido promises to help her find Yoshinin and tells her that from now on he will be her gay friend. These words calm the girl's heart, but before they can continue, Toka appears again, still hurt and seeing him with Yoshino. She becomes irritated, making Yoshino vanish once more. Shortly after, Kotori informs Shido that the Yoshinin puppet has been located and, unfortunately for him, the puppet is inside the psychopath's house. When he arrives there, Origami receives him dressed as a maid, leaving Shido completely thrilled. He realizes Origami is the love of his life, and she says she will take a bath to get ready for him. Shido uses the opportunity to search for the puppet and finally finds it. Right after that, Origami returns wrapped in a towel, beginning to ask whether he will lose his virginity today. Shido asks her to put the maid outfit back on, saying he only feels attraction for goths and cosplayers. But before she can do that, he receives an urgent alert: Yoshino has been located again and is already being hunted. Upon arriving at the scene, Shido sees a girl being struck by gunfire, and in response she decides to release a nuclear bomb. Shido tries calling out to her, but this only attracts the angel's attention, who fires a powerful ice blast at him. Before the attack hits him, Toka's spiritual sword appears protecting him, a sign that Toka will wear the cosplay outfit again. Toka apologizes for her earlier behavior, and Shido explains what is truly happening with Yoshino. She does not want to fight, she simply cannot control her fear and loneliness. With that, Toka finally understands Shido never cared romantically about Yoshino, he only wanted to save her. Determined, Toka flies off to distract the hunters, giving Shido time to approach the storm created by Yoshino. However, Kotori warns him through the communicator, saying that the only power he has is, who knows, spirit magic, so he could easily die there. Even so, Shido looks at the snow whirlwind and responds with conviction, saying he believes in the god of ice skies, and therefore, if he dies, he will be sent to a better world. And for those who do not know, Batman is exactly like that, and so, he takes the first step into the storm. Even with all the danger warnings, Shido ignores Kotori's alerts and enters the snowstorm created by Yoshino. Inside, he finally finds her, and carefully, Shido approaches and returns the puppet to her. He says that once his father took one of his dolls away and he threw poop at the man. And after that his father beat his mother, which is why he and his sister live alone. Yoshino stares with tears in her eyes, and at that moment, Katori forces Shido to seal the little girl's powers. Immediately, the blizzard dissipates and the sky becomes clear again. Shido thinks about turning himself in to the police after what he did, and I think that is the most fair thing of all. But Katori tells him that if he is arrested, Toka and Yoshino will end up suffering even more. And this is the perfect excuse for him to continue doing illegal things. A few days later, we see that a special house has been built to shelter spirits whose powers have been sealed. There, Shido reunites with Yoshino, and now she is calm and happy. Sometime later, the captain of the spirit hunters appears furious. She is fighting against a strange machine and wondering how they reached such a chaotic point. To understand what happened, we go back in time to the moment when the girls ask Shido for permission to go together to a hot spring. Katori suggests that they use government money in a luxurious place and gives command of the operation to Vice Captain Kanazuki. However, since Kanazuki shows an excessive enthusiasm to peek at the girls in the bath, Katori punishes him severely, ordering him to dig holes for an entire week as punishment. Meanwhile, at the Spirit Hunters base, the captain receives the news that the team's annual hot spring trip has been cancelled due to a recent incident involving the spirits. Furious, she promises herself a relaxing hot spring trip and chooses the same luxurious destination using government money. Thus, both teams, the Shido group and the Spirit Hunter group, end up going to the same location. Origami sees all of this as a waste of time, and the purpose of her life is only to punish spirits, until Shido calls her and the cursed psychopath accepts going to the hot springs without hesitating. During the trip, Shido shows himself very attentive to Ashino, which leaves Toka filled with jealousy. But what she does not know is that Shido is simply trying to make the girl understand that Sonic is faster than the Flash. In a moment of irritation, she stomps her foot on the car floor, creating a gigantic crater in the asphalt. Meanwhile, the Spirit Hunters advance along the same route, but the captain is more concerned with relaxing in the hot springs than driving. The result is disastrous, and everyone is forced to stop, making the team continue on foot. Already on the surface, Katori and her squad decide to prevent the Spirit Hunters from reaching the spring. They set traps and barriers all along the path, yet Origami uses her abilities to track Shido's scent and move forward. Meanwhile, Shido meets Katori and invites her to relax for a moment in the hot springs, since he misses seeing her poorly developed body. But before she can accept, she receives an urgent alert from the team. She orders Shido to go ahead with the girls while she tries to hold back the Spirit Hunter. However, the captain of the Spirit Hunters is irritated with the obstacles and begins destroying everything in her path because she is extremely anxious to rest in warm water. During the chaos, the child's doll ends up getting lost once again, which makes her cry. Shido, determined to shut her up, goes in search of the doll, even with explosions happening around him. He finds it, but the moment he picks it up, a massive attack from the Spirit Hunters falls on him. Luckily, Toka arrives in time, protecting him and carrying him to a safe place. The attack ends and the Spirit Hunter acknowledges the destructive power of her own captain, who is now feared as the Hot Spring Lunatic. Some time later, everyone finally reaches the hot springs. However, when Yoshino submerges the Yoshinin doll into the hot water, the doll's head detaches. The heat of the springs is replaced by a wave of freezing cold. Even so, the group does not give up and attempts another thermal bath. Fortunately, Kanazuki, still fulfilling his punishment, discovers a new underground hot spring, thus saving the day. Some time later, we see Origami, a psychopath in battle, facing a new opponent. The girl defeats Origami with ease. Her name is Mana, and with a smile, she reveals herself to be a special Spirit Hunter agent. She states that she will win Shido before Origami, and the girl asks how she intends to do that. But Mana explains that she prefers not to comment. Later, during a Spirit Hunter demonstration, Mana recognizes Shido and calls him her older brother. Origami, wasting no time, interferes, coldly claiming that she and Shido are lovers. Meanwhile, at Shido's school, a new student named Kirumi is transferred there. She quickly draws everyone's attention. But what few know is that she is a spirit. Upon receiving the news, Katori and the Spirit Hunters go into maximum alert, since Kirumi is known as Nightmare, and rumors say that she has already killed more than 10,000 people. But despite her dark aura, she shows a special interest in Shido, asking him to show her the school. Shido, like a skilled hunter of gothic girls, can sense it from afar, and he knows Kirumi hides something. So, he does his best, showing the school to the girl. During the tour, Kirumi does not avert her gaze for a single moment, and her piercing stare scares him, fearing she might discover that he loves Sonic. Meanwhile, Katori monitors the situation, analyzing which questions Shido could ask to gain the new student's trust. However, a command error makes her send the wrong suggestion, and Shido, without noticing, ends up asking Kirumi if she likes Sonic, and this was the greatest mistake he made. Kirumi smiles calmly and says she prefers Shadow. Frightened by what she said, Shido quickly changes the subject, not realizing that Kirumi has already understood everything she needs to know about him. Then she shows great interest in getting to know him better. And this is the first time I see a girl interested in someone because of Sonic. Unbelievable. Then she says there is something she would like to ask as a favor. But before she can explain, Toka and Origami appear, interrupting the two and fighting for Shido's attention. When classes end, Kirumi says goodbye and leaves alone. On her way home, she is approached by a group of well-intentioned men who only want the best for her. Kirumi invites them into a dark alley, since she says she has something rounded to show them. A few seconds later, we only hear the men screaming, and right after that, Kirumi appears alone. At that moment, Mana arrives, recognizing her as Nightmare, and Kirumi becomes delighted with another dish she can devour. Some time later, Toka and Shido meet Mana, and Shido is shocked when she hugs him with tears in her eyes, calling him her older brother. Without understanding anything, they take her to Shido's house, and there she explains that Shido is her biological brother, but he ended up being adopted by the Itsuka family after the incident many years ago. And you can already see the plot writing itself here, right? As proof, Mana shows a pendant with photos of the two of them when they were children. Shido, confused, admits he remembers nothing, but he is happy to learn he still has a blood sibling. Soon, the conversation between Mana and Katori turns into a dispute over whom Shido prefers more as a sister, so he says he will prefer whichever one cosplays Genshin Impact for him. When he asks where Mana lives, she becomes nervous and dodges the question, leaving the place quickly. The next day, during class, Shido notices that Kirumi still has not appeared. Origami comments in relief that perhaps she gave up on her own life, but to everyone's surprise, Kirumi enters the room, and during break, Shido is called to the training chamber, where Katori shows him a video of hunters and spirits. In it, the special forces attack and kill Kirumi on camera. Even so, she is still alive, sitting in her classroom. Meanwhile, in the school hallways, Origami and Kirumi meet. Kirumi reveals that at first she only wanted to enjoy herself by seeing everyone's reactions to her presence, but now her greatest interest is Shido. Suddenly, shadowy arms emerge from the darkness, restraining Origami. The next day, Shido invites Kirumi on a date because he wants to know what her favorite type of man is, but she already knows that a single kiss from him could seal her powers. At the same time, the spirit hunters discover that Kirumi is alive and start an operation to hunt her again. Katori, worried, orders Shido to act as quickly as possible and try to make Kirumi fall in love with him. But Origami overhears everything by accident and confronts Shido, trying to force him to tell the truth. Panicking, he runs away, not knowing how to explain that he has been seducing spirits for several different reasons. Origami alone remembers the encounter she had with Kirumi, where she received the news that she would soon experience hell. Meanwhile, Toka begins feeling sad for being away from Shido. She misses hearing him talk about Sonic, and the other girls who used to watch her notice her sadness. They try to cheer her up by giving her some tickets to a terrible movie about the third season of John Punchman. Later, Toka timidly gives the tickets to Shido, and some time later, Shido receives a call from Origami, who wants to see him again. He asks her to come wearing a cosplay, and she promises to wear one. Meanwhile, Kirumi watches from afar, ready to act. The next day, Shido finds himself in a situation that makes him thank God for his life. He has dates scheduled with 3 different girls on the same day, and the guy is incredibly lucky. He always joked that he was handsome, but 3 girls in a single day is insane. And Katori tries to calm him down, but he reveals he is not nervous, he simply does not know if he will return home alive. The first to arrive for the date is Toka, and the chosen location is an aquarium. Toka is still learning about this world, and there is no one better than Shido himself to help her on this journey. Shido needs to guide her patiently, explaining everything that appears. In the end, she becomes very happy and says that Shido's world is far more advanced compared to hers. At the same time, Kirumi and Origami arrive at their spots, and they seem very excited. On the other hand, to fulfill these 3 commitments, Shido pretends he is going to release a massive dump, allowing the teleportation team to secretly teleport him to the next date. The second date is with Kirumi, and everyone debates which place would be best for Shido to take her. Everyone remembers that a wrong choice can be disastrous, since Kirumi reacts badly when something does not go her way. For that reason, Shido decides he will take her to a clothing store because his dream is to see a girl wearing a Sonic shirt. There she enjoys herself, trying on several provocative and attention-grabbing dresses, making Shido sad because there is no Sonic outfit in that store. When the signal to switch dates arrives, Shido tries to leave, but he is chased by a trio of curious girls who saw him with Kirumi. Even so, he manages to lose them and reaches Origami, who had been waiting for him for a long time, even receiving a bird's droppings on her while she stood there completely motionless. During the date, Origami invites Shido to watch a movie, but since it is already late, she takes him to a restaurant. Without wasting any time, Origami asks to live with him, leaving Shido completely shocked. At that exact moment, he sees Toka outside the restaurant, and without thinking twice, he uses the bathroom excuse again to escape and return to the date with her. From that point on, Shido begins switching frantically between the three girls. He can barely handle the situation and is almost discovered several times. Meanwhile, Kirumi stays alone, sitting on a bench, sighing and commenting to herself how reckless and unskilled Shido is. Right after that, she sees a group of boys nearby and decides to play with them. She disables Fraxinus cameras so Kotori and the others cannot observe her. Meanwhile, Toka and Origami end up meeting by accident. As they talk, both realize they are on the same type of date with the same boy. At first, the two are confused, but they quickly understand the situation. Moments later, one of them notices that Shido might be in danger and leaves to look for him. In the meantime, Shido is also searching for Kirumi since he lost contact with her. But in his misfortune, he ends up witnessing a terrifying scene. He sees Kirumi devouring a man's life force and freezes with guilt. Shido tries to leave after seeing that, but Kirumi captures him, approaching him slowly with a dark gaze, as if she were about to drain all his energy. When she is about to kiss him, Mana appears and suddenly ends all the fun. And man, when I watched this anime, I became furious because someone always appeared to ruin the best moments. That is why nowadays I only watch action anime and hentai, far better. Shido is stunned by the sudden attack, understanding nothing, but Mana explains that Kirumi is a special spirit who controls time. According to her, no matter how many times Kirumi is destroyed, she always returns to life, manipulating time in her favor. Shido says that stopping time is one of the best powers he would want to have, but sometimes he thinks the power of invisibility is better, because he enjoys when girls resist a little. Mana reveals that Kirumi has already been defeated many times, but that damn girl is still alive. During the rescue, Mana pushes Shido away from the place, and in that movement she notices the communicator in his ear, through which Kotori and the team were giving romantic tips to Shido. Later, Shido meets Toka and Origami again, who still want to stay with him. However, he cannot stop thinking that there is a gothic girl who can stop time. So now he has no room to think about secondary girls, and therefore he leaves. Shortly after, Toka finds him again, and noticing Shido is very down, she tries to cheer him up. Knowing what happened with Kirumi, Toka tries to help him, as if he were a struggling foreigner. She buys a ton of food for him and tells him to kill his hunger. If it were me, I would have loved eating at a girl's expense. But Shido only thinks about goths, so he simply watches Toka eating everything happily. Shido remembers the day he saved Toka for the first time, and realizes how much she has changed since then. Before, she looked like a wild cosplayer, and now she smiles like a normal girl. And in that moment, the poor guy realizes he is cursed, that he turns incredible girls into ordinary girls, yet he will not give up on dating a strange gothic girl. The next day, Shido meets Kirumi again, and this time he looks into her eyes and says that his pistol can make her pregnant with a single shot. These words leave the girl completely surprised. No one had ever told her that before. Kirumi then decides to test Shido's sincerity, manifesting her true spiritual form, that of a spirit of time. Meanwhile, in another part of the story, Kotori meets Mana. The meeting between the two is tense, and Mana accuses Kotori and her organization of performing several illegal activities related to spirits. But Kotori says that what is illegal is what her brother wants to do with her. Irritated, Mana prepares to dismantle Kotori's operation, but she soon discovers that Kotori's organization finances the spirit hunters, and therefore she cannot wipe them out. Back to Shido, he receives a call from Rin, who informs him that she will be his new advisor, temporarily replacing Kotori. But before he can understand the reason, Kirumi's angel activates, releasing a temporal wave that makes everyone in the city pass out, except those who have already been beaten by their drunk parents, just like me. During the analysis of the event, Kotori reveals that Mana may have absorbed too much spiritual energy and her human body is overloaded. She probably only has about 10 years of life left. And meanwhile, Kirumi summons Shido to meet her on the school rooftop. At the same time, Origami prepares for battle, determined to prove who really brings the heat. On her way, Origami is intercepted by one of Kirumi's clones, triggering an intense fight. At the same time, Toka awakens from the trance caused by Kirumi's shadow barrier. She tries to advance to help Shido, but another clone blocks her path. On the rooftop, Shido meets the real Kirimi, who greets him with affection and tenderness. The entire place around them feels extremely strange, and she explains that this dimension consumes the life and time of whoever enters it, and that her powers drain the time stored in her left eye, reducing her very existence. For that reason, she must periodically recharge her vital time inside that dimension. Shido understands absolutely nothing, just like me. So Kirimi threatens to detonate a nuclear bomb in the city if Shido tries to kiss her. I think it's worth the risk, and Shido thinks so too, so he doesn't really care about the people around him, since he doesn't know any of them anyway. Shido says that if she doesn't kiss him, he will collapse right in front of her, and the anime will end with a terrible ending. When he jumps, trying to fly, Kirimi saves him, showing she truly cares about him. Moved, she dispels the barrier and holds him in her arms, and Shido, breathless, begs for just one kiss. Kirimi hesitates, and when she is about to take his hand, one of her clones appears and tries to kill her. At that moment, Mana appears again, ready to eliminate Kirimi once more. But the real Kirimi laughs and regenerates instantly, activating all of her power, eager to face Mana in a duel to the death. Their fight is better than the entire second season of Blue Lock, and soon Toka, Origami, and the other girls arrive to help Shido. But Kirimi reveals the true terror of her angel. The damn girl summons dozens of clones of herself from different moments in time, forming an army of her own past and future versions. Shido thinks about all the things he could do with so many clones. But now is not the time to think with the head below. He sees Kirimi about to defeat all the girls, until a new spiritual energy appears on the battlefield. From within the light emerges Kotori in her spirit form, wielding her sacred firearm. Kirimi becomes furious and starts shooting mindlessly. Kotori responds with bursts of blazing fire. Kirimi then uses her power to stop time, approaching Kotori and trying to shoot her directly in the head. But to her surprise, Kotori survives and regenerates. She says she installed an anti-cheat in the script and that Kirimi's hacks won't work anymore. Even injured, Kirimi doesn't give up and activates time reversal. She heals her wounds and returns to the peak of her power. And the girl is just a little broken, right? Exhausted, Kotori fights with everything she has, holding out long enough to charge a final blast in her spiritual cannon. The strike hits Kirimi directly, knocking her to the ground, apparently defeated. Breathing heavily, Kotori feels pleasure and relief, believing she has finally won. She starts charging another blast, determined to eliminate Kirimi once and for all. But before she can fire again, our hero Shido jumps in front of the attack, taking the hit in Kirimi's place. Struck, Shido falls to his knees, and amid the pain and smoke, the memory of his past with Kotori overwhelms his mind. The happy days, the warmth of their family, the vow he made to protect her at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Sometime later, Shido awakens in the infirmary, and beside him are Yoshino, Toka, and Hina, watching him with worry. As soon as he opens his eyes, the boy immediately asks what happened after he took Kotori's attack. Hina, the ship's doctor, explains that he and the others are fine, including Origami and Mana, although both are hospitalized to recover from their injuries. Kirimi, on the other hand, managed to escape, and that news makes Shido happy, and me too, because she is the best girl. He didn't want to lose his new favorite toy. And meanwhile, Kotori is isolated in another room under constant observation. Without wasting time, Shido gets up and goes to the room where his sister is. When he arrives, the two talk as if nothing had happened. But Shido goes straight to the point and asks his sister if she is a spirit. She looks at him for a moment and answers that she considers herself human. She reveals that she was born human in the Itsuka family, but received spirit powers 5 years ago. Her words make Shido remember a recurring dream, in which Kotori, still a child, accidentally hurts him when she releases flames from her own hands. Kotori says she doesn't remember the event, but she knows something terrible happened that day. She believes that in that moment her spiritual power was released. She explains that since then she does not fully understand her origin as a spirit, but she is aware that she was sealed once in the past. According to her, the one who sealed her was Shido, and the way he sealed her power is painfully obvious to all of us. The bastard didn't spare even his own sister. Kotori says she discovered that Shido possesses a unique ability, and that he seals the powers of spirits through kisses, which makes him essential to maintaining the balance between humans and spirits without needing to fight them. Because of that, he was chosen to interact with the spirit girls, win them over emotionally, and seal their powers peacefully. But now there is a major problem happening. After regaining her powers, Kotori changed completely. She became unstable, destructive, and dangerous, to the point of being afraid of herself. Because of that, they decide Shido will need to seal her powers again. And for that he will have to go on a date with Kotori and, at the end, kiss her. Shido says he can do whatever she wants right now. She just has to close her eyes. However, before the plan is set, Kotori starts to feel sick. Hina analyzes her energy and reveals that she will only be able to contain her power for about 2 more days. If that time runs out, Kotori will stop being herself, and Shido could kiss her right now. but he pretends to be a normal guy to keep up appearances. Later, Shido visits the hospital and finds Origami recovering, even injured. She continues acting provocatively, forcing the boy to carry her to her room. There, she takes advantage of the situation to tease him a little, leaving him completely shy since he has never gotten this far. After the brief teasing, Origami seriously asks about the spirit of fire that appeared during the battle against Kirimi. She explains that 5 years ago, a spirit of fire destroyed the neighborhood where she lived, burning her parents alive right in front of her eyes. Since then, Origami joined the spirit hunters and has been preparing to avenge her parents, swearing to eliminate the one known as the spirit of fire. Upon hearing this, Shido falls into deep silence, because he knows the spirit of fire that Origami hates so much is his own sister. To Shido, his sister is more important than any girl, so he decides to keep this secret. Meanwhile, Origami receives a visit from her captain, who informs her that when she returns to duty, she will command a new squad. When Shido and Kotori return to the base, they discuss a date that will serve as a test for the ceiling. Shido suggests they go to a water park to try to relax and enjoy their time together as siblings. Before the official date, Hina proposes a simulation test, and for that she sends Shido to buy swimsuits, accompanied by Toka and Yoshino, as a way to evaluate his ability to handle multiple girls at once. While they are at the store, Origami appears unexpectedly, saying she needs a larger swimsuit. However, the real reason is different. She wants to ask Toka about the spirit of fire, but Toka, completely innocent, does not understand what Origami wants to know, and her answers are so confusing that they end up being useless. Irritated, Origami begins observing Shido closely, and immediately after, she invites Shido to help her choose a swimsuit. He really wants to help her, but Toka and Yoshino stare at him with jealousy. Once again, Shido finds himself caught in a desperate situation, since he does not know how to make the girls understand that he was born to be the leader of a harem. What a massive problem Shido has gotten himself into. Shido agrees to help Origami choose the swimsuit, and that ends up starting a fierce competition between her and Toka. They decide that whoever manages to embarrass Shido more will earn the right to go on a date with him. The first to show off is Toka, who appears in a white swimsuit, which looks perfect for celebrating New Year's Eve. Origami, on the other hand, wears a tight black swimsuit, which gets Shido very excited since black fits her skin perfectly. Not wanting to fall behind, Toka switches to a purple swimsuit, even tighter, which visibly annoys Origami. But Origami counters by revealing that she was wearing another swimsuit under her shirt, and provocatively forces Shido to help her take it off, leaving him with his pistol loaded. When the two are about to begin their showdown, Yoshino steps in timidly, asking for help putting on her own swimsuit, since she has only one free hand. Seeing her so sweet and vulnerable, Shido decides to end the competition and declares Yoshino the winner. After this episode, I am definitely reporting this author to the FBI at least 4 times. But unfortunately, they will not be able to arrest the guy, since he lives in Japan, so all that is left is to hope they drop a third nuclear bomb right on his head. Back at the base, Shido is still worried about Kotori. He cannot stop thinking about the incident from 5 years ago, and because of that, the vice captain decides to show him the recordings from that day. In the footage, Shido sees Kotori surrounded by flames, and a distorted figure appears beside her. He tries to remember who that person was, but when he forces his memory, he suddenly faints, and the next day Shido wakes up determined to continue his mission. Even disturbed by the memories, he gets ready for a date with Kotori. Kotori arrives dressed elegantly, but visibly nervous, yet she still keeps her playful and teasing personality. By Hina's decision, Toka and Yoshino also come along as emotional support during the date. So everyone heads to the water park, and while the girls have fun, Kotori tries several times to make Shido look at her swimsuit. But when he comments that she is as flat as a sheet of paper, Kotori becomes furious, creating a tense atmosphere between them. To break the ice, Toka suggests going to the giant water slide. At first, Kotori and Yoshino refuse, but when Kotori hears that Toka is going with Shido, she changes her mind immediately. During the descent, Shido falls violently into the water, and the girls cling to Shido tightly, screaming in fear. Later, they take a break to eat, and Kotori steps away for a moment to talk to Hina, who ends up giving her a special medicine to stabilize her powers. Hina comments sadly that this might be Kotori's last chance to have a date with her brother. This is extremely weird, and by chance Shido overhears the conversation and understands the message. When he meets her again, he removes the communicator and decides that from that moment on, it will be a genuine date. Meanwhile, at the Spirit Hunter's base, new combat equipment arrives, capable of killing spirits easily. Shortly after, Origami receives a confidential video showing the spirit of fire, and she becomes horrified when she discovers that this spirit is Kotori. Back at the park, we continue with this bizarre sibling date, visiting the most intense attractions such as the roller coaster, the pirate ship, and even a haunted house. During a scare, Shido pretends to be afraid just to hold Kotori's hand, which is a major achievement for a loser like him. Toka and Yoshino, on their side, want to help. But Yoshino reveals she knows about Kotori's condition and explains that interfering could make everything worse. Reluctantly, Toka decides to trust Shido and stay out of the fight. Meanwhile, at the hunter's base, the members discover that the new piece of equipment has been stolen. And once again, during this cursed date, the two stop to rest on a bench. The atmosphere between them becomes calm and intimate, and it is the perfect moment for the kiss that would seal her power. But before Shido can act, he decides to ask about the incident from 5 years ago, still haunted by the images he saw. However, before the answer can come, a violent explosion hits the location, destroying the bench and throwing Kotori far away. From the flames and smoke, Origami emerges, piloting the stolen weapon. She is determined to avenge her parents' deaths, but she had no idea what she was about to face. From the ashes, Kotori is reborn in her spirit form, surrounded by red flames and with her eyes burning with power. The confrontation between the two begins and Kotori dominates the fight, breaking Origami's defenses and knocking her down repeatedly. When she is about to land the final blow, Origami screams that she saw her parents die at Kotori's hands. These words paralyze Kotori, who steps back in shock, since for the first time, the repressed memories of both begin to surface. The impact of Origami's words shakes Kotori deeply. The girl, taken by fear and guilt, stops attacking and stays silent, reflecting on what she heard. In this moment of hesitation, Origami takes the opportunity to counterattack, hitting Kotori and leaving her immobilized, about to be defeated. Seeing his sister in danger, Shido runs to intervene. More than saving Kotori, he wants to stop Origami from losing her humanity. Just like Mana had lost hers in pursuit of vengeance, Origami hesitates for a moment, divided between hatred and reason, but her anger is stronger. She ends up pushing Shido aside and prepares to fire. Before the tragedy can happen, the two girls, Toka and Yoshino, arrive and distract Origami, giving Shido the chance to carry Kotori away. Away from the battle, Shido and Kotori are left alone, exhausted and badly injured. Kotori begins to cry. Shido holds her hand and gently tells her that no matter what she is, spirit or human, she will always be his little sister. He says that he loves her, and she smiles through her tears, replying that she loves him too. The two embrace, and the moment their hearts align, Kotori's spiritual power begins to stabilize. The kiss that would seal the pact happens naturally, and the forgotten memories of the two return. A fire from 5 years ago, Kotori's loss of control, and the moment when Shido awakened for the first time. Shortly after, Origami recovers and tries to attack once again, but Shido stands in front of her to protect his sister. He reveals that now, within himself, he carries part of Kotori's powers, and that she is no longer a complete spirit. Kotori tries to explain that she was not the one who caused the fire and promises to help Origami discover who truly killed her parents. But overwhelmed by exhaustion and the excessive use of her power, Origami faints before she can hear anything more. Days later, Kirimi appears in another part of the city, planning her next move while the others try to regain some peace. During this daydream of Origami's, Toka looks for Shido to thank him for saving Kotori and to try cheering him up with her cheerful personality. In a shy moment, she even tries to kiss him, but then Shido appears right on time, interrupting the scene to the despair of both. Later, Shido agrees to go out with Origami, who invites him on a date after recovering. However, the idea comes from Kotori herself, who suggests that Shido behave in such an unbearable way that Origami ends up hating him, avoiding new problems. On the day of the date, Shido follows the plan, showing up dressed carelessly, acting strangely, and trying to make the date as bad as possible. However, Origami does not react as expected. She stays calm and accepts everything he says, as if nothing bothers her. Shido begins to realize that there is something deeper behind her behavior, a pain he still does not fully understand. Meanwhile, Toka is out shopping and decides to send Shido a message, wanting to talk to him and maybe finally express her feeling. On Shido's side, he rehearses a speech he intends to use to end his relationship with Origami, not realizing that, by mistake, he was on a call with Toka. Toka hears everything and misunderstands Shido's words, believing that he is breaking up with her. Overcome by anger and sadness, she loses control of her emotions, generating a massive spiritual distortion that threatens the city. Worried, Shido runs to her. Upon finding her, he explains everything and makes it clear that he never meant any of it and that he will always love her, no matter what. These words calm her, and relieved, Toka returns to normal. But when Shido is about to gently touch her hair, Origami appears, believing that those words were meant for her. The confusion triggers another fight between the two girls, forcing Shido to take them somewhere else to try containing the situation. He decides to take Toka to an arcade, hoping to distract her, but she ends up breaking one of the machines during a game out of pure frustration. The next day, already at school, the dispute between Toka and Origami starts again. Neither of them is willing to let Shido go, and the boy, trying to ease the stress, invites invites Toka to play again. During the games, Toka imagines her opponents as origami and starts defeating one after another. However, Shido notices that although she appears happy, her mind is still very unstable. To try calming her down, he takes her to a photo booth. Nervous, Toka says it is her first time taking pictures. Embarrassed, she pushes Shido out of the booth to take the picture alone. When she comes out, she hands him the photo and blushes deeply, telling him to look at it when he is alone. With this incredible gesture, Toka ends up saving all of Shido's late-night effort. Later, Origami is seen at an arcade, trying to get a keychain from a claw machine, but she loses all her money trying. Shido helps her and manages to get the keychain for her, which unexpectedly leaves her flustered. After the meeting, Toka tries giving the keychain to Shido as a present, saying that she knows she is a spirit and that humans should not date spirits anymore. But Shido replies firmly that he would never go out with someone he did not genuinely like, and those words make her smile. She decides to keep the keychain as a symbol of their love, and the next day she is radiant. But chaos begins when Shido drops the photo she had taken. To everyone's surprise, the picture shows Toka partially undressed, which triggers laughter and screams. Shido then discovers that Rin was the one who suggested Toka take a more daring and embarrassing photo. He leaves the classroom and ends up meeting Origami, who gives him another keychain as a gift. It ends up being identical to Toka's, creating a curious coincidence between the three. One morning, Shido wakes up startled by a loud crash coming from the girls' building. When he goes to check, he discovers that Toka accidentally soaked the notes and gifts he had given her, believing that he hated her. At the same time, Yoshino loses her Yoshinin doll in the bath, and Shido needs to calm both unstable spirits to prevent a disaster. Meanwhile, Origami faces problems with her asked superiors, who want to apply punishments for her conduct. Before that happens, the mysterious Isaac intervenes, suspending the punishment and showing a special interest in her. Back at Fraxinus, Shido receives instructions from Kotori on how to deal with the girls. Shortly after, he receives a message from Origami asking to meet, and Shido goes to her, while the girls stay watching their favorite romantic drama. Origami takes him to a more private place, a public restroom, to talk calmly. She tells him what happened during the last month, including a 2-month suspension from school. She says she still has doubts about Kotori and wants proof that she is no longer a fire spirit, even without being able to show anything concrete. Shido promises that Kotori is no longer a threat, and Origami, hesitant, ends up accepting. But she asks one last question, asking him if he is still human. He confirms that he is, even after surviving so many fatal wounds. She watches him closely, and for the first time decides to truly believe him. Meanwhile, Toka finds Shido's travel suitcase prepared for the school trip. Influenced by the drama she was watching, she believes he is going to abandon her and panics, running off to look for him. When she finds him with Origami, Toka misunderstands once more, believing they are running away together. Her emotional state deteriorates quickly, and her spiritual power begins to manifest again. This is practically a full Mexican soap opera at this point. Shido runs to the place of their first meeting and finds her dominated by fear. She does not want to let him go and is willing to use force to keep him by her side. Calmly, Shido explains that the suitcase is for the school trip and does not mean he is leaving her behind. Toka finally understands, but her power has built up so much that the threat spirals out of control. Shido approaches slowly and, with a gentle smile, says he promised he would always protect her. With that, he kisses her once again, sealing her powers again. The energy around them disappears, and Toka returns to being just the cheerful girl he loves. And I am starting to think the girls here only release their power to get a kiss from Shido. But I have no way to prove any of this, so it stays only in the realm of theory. At the same time this happens, the squad detects the reappearance of Toka's spiritual energy after 3 months of absence. Intrigued by the type of life she has been living among humans, he decides to send Ellen, the greatest mage of all time, to investigate her. And so we begin a new arc. We arrive at the day of the school trip, and we see Shido exhausted right at the beginning of the journey. Days earlier at school, Toka had declared she would be capable of transforming into a boy, just to share a room with him during the trip, which is an impressive ability. Origami, on the other hand, had the same goal, but with far more direct intentions, staying close to Shido. After the long journey, the students arrive at Ruby Island, a tropical paradise surrounded by crystal-clear sea and ruby-colored mountains. During the tour, Toka and Shido explore the place together, laughing and enjoying their time. But something gives Toka the feeling that someone is watching them, and frightened, she runs into the forest, and Shido rushes after her. What she senses is not imagination. Ellen, the powerful hunting mage, is infiltrated in the trip disguised as an excursion photographer. She tries following Shido and Toka, but ends up being dragged away by other students, losing sight of them. Soon after, storm clouds begin forming over the island. Kotori decides to descend personally to help Shido, leaving Kanazuki temporarily in command of the ship. In the middle of the strong wind, Toka is struck and faints, and Shido tries to protect her. And when the wind finally stops, he sees two girls floating in the sky, Kaguya and Yusuru. The two spirits are in combat, launching gusts of wind while arguing over who is the true one. They explain to Shido that long ago they were a single spirit called Yamai, but her power was divided into two distinct personalities. And you already see where this is going, right? Two more girls for our protagonist. Since then, they have engaged in an endless dispute to decide which of the two deserves to exist, and once the true Yamai is chosen, the other will disappear. Shido tries to convince them to stop because two girls are better than one, but Kaguya proposes a final competition. She clearly declares that both of them must win Shido over, and whoever does it first will be the only one to exist. I have never seen anyone as lucky as Shido in my entire life. Thus, the two girls decide to turn the poor boy into the final test of their rivalry. The next day, Yuzuru and Kaguya appear among the students, disguised as exchange pupils. They announce that they will be part of the excursion and begin openly competing for Shido, trying to please him in everything, always in an exaggerated and clumsy way. Meanwhile, Hein tries contacting Kotori, but realizes communications were cut and decides to investigate. Alone with the twins, Shido tries to handle the girls, who drag him to every corner of the island, proposing absurd challenges to prove who is more worthy. Despite their confusing intentions, both are naive, and their arguments end up being more comedic than dangerous. During one of these incidents, Toka appears furious, thinking Shido is getting into trouble. But upon understanding the situation, she tries helping him escape without causing another disaster. In the confusion, she ends up pushing Shido directly into the sea, drawing laughter from the sisters. At night, Ellen reviews the photos taken during the day. In reality, they are surveillance records of the spirits. She then contacts her superior and orders the units to remain on standby, simply waiting for her command. Meanwhile, the Yamai twins continue arguing inside Shido's room, now with teasing and provocations. In the hallway, Toka and Origami argue again about who should visit him. Their classmates, tired of the constant fights, suggest resolving it with a pillow war. The entire dorm becomes a battlefield of flying feathers while Shido tries escaping the sisters, accidentally knocking over his teacher Tamai in the process. The next morning, Hina tries sending a message to Shido. She installed small transmitters on Yusuru and Kaguya's clothes, making them believe they are receiving divine orders. In reality, this will allow Shido to synchronize with them emotionally, and at the right moment he must seal both peacefully, without either needing to disappear. Thus, with another romantic mission in his hands, Shido prepares to face a different challenge, one that leaves him quite excited. He will have to win over both spirits at the same time without breaking any hearts. However, this worries the crew, since it means one of them will disappear forever. The meeting begins, and the girls arrive with Shido, asking him to apply sunscreen on them. They lie down on the sand, waiting for him to do so. But since the boy does not fall for the provocation, Kaguya, impulsive, decides to climb on top of her sister, pressing her body against hers, creating a shocking scene for the protagonist. Yuzuru then switches positions, staying on top of her sister while Shido applies sunscreen on her. This sparks yet another argument between the twins, but they give up when they run out of energy. Meanwhile, Ellen keeps trying to observe Toka, but other students always appear to interrupt. In the end, the protagonist and the girls go to meet Toka and Origami, who surprisingly are the ones responsible for putting those crazy ideas in the twins' heads about how to win Shido's love. Rin suggests playing volleyball to strengthen the bond between the girls, but even then, the twins continue fighting whenever they get the chance. As Toka and Origami are winning, the two sisters decide to join forces to turn the game around and take the lead, showing that even briefly they are capable of getting along. At the end of the match, Kaguya and Yusuru approach Shido and ask him to choose the other. They want their sister to win because they love each other too much to keep fighting. They even say they are willing to erase everyone on the island if necessary to save the girl Shido does not choose. Shido spends the rest of the day thinking about this until, at night, he meets Toka, who invites him to observe the stars on the beach. There, he explains he only wanted to talk because he realizes he is still extremely tense. Our hero then tells Toka everything that happened with the twins. And meanwhile, Origami encounters a very strange creature that attacks her and Rin. Back at the conversation with Toka, she understands the entire situation. But before she can advise him, the twins appear, and upon hearing what the other wants, they waste no time and prepare to fight once again. Meanwhile, the Dem group manages to establish visual contact with Fraxinus and orders its soldiers to attack the ship. Fraxinus is bombarded, and as Kanazuki hesitates to react, A superior calls Kotori asking for help. However, she refuses because she trusts Kanazuki's ability to handle the situation. Kanazuki then begins giving orders to her team, creating shields in strategic formations, managing to avoid most of the damage. On the ground, the twins keep fighting, but now they are no longer alone. Toka notices Helen's presence along with her subordinates, and while Shido tries to calm everything down, Toka draws her sword, sensing the danger Helen represents. Helen, in turn, pulls out her weapons and charges into battle. Although Toka fights with determination, her sword ends up breaking, which disappoints Helen, who prepares to capture her. But Shido refuses to be useless again and suddenly summons Toka's sword out of nowhere, ready to confront Helen. At the same time, the Dem ship's captain cannot believe they are being defeated and orders them to destroy Fraxinus's barrier at any cost. This only amuses Kanazuki, who already had a contingency plan prepared. The girl wants to be Batman. Back to Shido's fight, Helen sends her subordinates to capture him, but before they can reach him, they all collapse. Their systems were disabled by an attack from Kanazuki, giving Shido and Toka the perfect chance to escape. While trying to capture them, Helen ends up falling into a hole dug by the girls from the class and passes out from the impact. Shido then reaches the twins, desperately trying to get their attention with his sword, but without success. As he keeps trying, Toka interrupts him, asking him to calm down, and at that moment, the sword vanishes. Helen explains that it was Shido's own desire that triggered the sword's manifestation, and that he can summon it again if he truly wants to. With that in mind, Shido summons the sword once more and raises it into the air, cutting through the sky and finally getting the twins' attention. They ask him not to interfere, but he ignores them. He does not want either of them to disappear and insists there is a third option. Both can renounce their powers and live together. And at first they are confused, since a human should not be able to help them with something like that. But Shido asks them to believe in him, and at that moment the sword disappears again, and Shido collapses as well. The twins fall silent, reflecting on his words, realizing that despite their constant fights, they love each other deeply and genuinely care for one another. The twins then stop fighting and decide to listen to Shido, accepting his proposal after putting their feelings into words. However, at that exact moment, the Dem ship begins falling toward them, interrupting their heartfelt moment. But before the ship reaches them, the two merge their weapons, forming a massive energy bow that fires a single arrow, completely destroying the enemy vessel. The next day, we see Origami waking up beside Rin, frustrated for not having done much during the battle and determined to become stronger. Meanwhile, Shido receives the twins' gratitude, and they kiss him, which somehow causes both of them to lose their clothes. Switching scenes, we see Helen, who confirms to her superior that Toka is indeed the princess they were searching for. She also questions whether it is possible for a human to possess the abilities of a spirit, and a few days later, Origami finally returns to school after her suspension. At that moment, her captain appears complaining, saying that a special Dem unit was assigned to assist them, since Ast has not been able to contain the spirits for some time. Right after that, the group arrives, and among them is Jessica, who mocks the team's failures. Meanwhile, Shido is appointed as the leader of the school festival, which means he is going to have a great amount of work ahead. Sometime later, Toka is at home starving, while Shido went out shopping with Yoshino. But at that moment, the space alarms go off, and Shido is immediately sent to the origin point of the anomaly. There, he encounters a spirit singing cheerfully named Miku. She becomes excited upon noticing that someone can hear her singing. However, the moment she sees Shido, regardless of what he says, Miku begins to oppose him and even tries to kill him. This only changes when the spirit hunters arrive, and she starts fighting as if everything were a game. Even though the hunters try to restrain her, Miku demonstrates overwhelming power, and Jessica notices Shido's presence, quickly removing him from the scene. Shortly after, Shido arrives at the base alongside Kotori, who explains that the spirit who attacked him is Miku, a singer and schoolmate, clearly a reference to Hatsune Miku. However, little is known about her, to the point that they called her a ghost, the same spirit involved in an accident 5 years ago. The problem is even bigger. Miku hates men, but she loves women, and because of that, Shido is forced to disguise himself as a girl to get close to her and try to seal her powers. Thus, he introduces himself to the girls in the class as Shiori, his cousin. Meanwhile, Origami wastes no time taking pictures, since this is the perfect first-hand fanservice opportunity. After that, our fanboy Shido goes to meet Miku, doing everything he can to please her, although he struggles to act like a girl. Even so, he manages to start a conversation and ends up asking to see her underwear, which leaves Miku charmed, thinking she may have found a new friend. The conversation flows naturally until Shido accidentally injures himself, and Miku offers her own handkerchief to cover the wound. Later, at home with the other girls, they talk about forming a band and performing together. But Shido does not want to turn this into a rock show. He is focused solely on Miku. The next day, he returns to the school to return the handkerchief, but he is surrounded by Miku's fans until she herself appears and invites her for tea. They talk for a long time, and Miku admits she likes Shido, or rather, Shori, I don't know anymore, I'm getting lost. She asks Shido to transfer to her school, but he refuses in surprise, which leaves Miku intrigued since no human should be able to resist her charm. So Shido decides to be honest and reveals he is the one responsible for sealing spirits, asking her to let him help her. But Miku refuses and says she likes being who she is, and she confesses she caused the recent spacequakes, because she knows that even if it kills people, the public still idolizes her. Shido, furious, says he hates her, and Miku responds by challenging him. If he manages to defeat her at the school festival, she will allow him to seal her powers. If he fails, she will take all the powers of the spirits he has already sealed for herself. Meanwhile, at the AST base, the captain complains to Jessica because Shido has now been added to the wanted list. Sometime later, Mana awakens from her confrontation with Kirumi, and the mysterious men appear to see her. Meanwhile, Shido tells his classmates everything that happened, and they agree to truly turn this anime into a music show, forming a band. Then out of nowhere, Toka receives a tambourine, while Origami takes the role of vocalist. Shortly after, Origami meets her captain, who informs her about Shido's situation, now considered a target by the AST. The day of the festival arrives, and the protagonist and his friends set up a maid cafe, with all the girls participating, including the Berserk twins. The cafe opens its doors while Shido hands out flyers at the entrance. He spots Kirumi, who watches him from a distance with a worried expression. Right after that, Miku appears to visit the cafe, and using her broken powers, she orders all the girls to leave Shido alone. She then invites Shido on a date, still believing Shido is Shiori, a woman. The two go to the ring toss booth, where Miku tries to win a plush toy for herself. When she fails, she simply orders the booth owner to give her the prize, and that power of hers is absurdly overpowered. This deeply irritates Shido, because he knows this is wrong, and that people should earn things through merit, not by imposing themselves. Meritocracy is trending. From that moment on, Shido decides he must defeat her no matter what, and Miku accepts the challenge, ending the date. Then the moment of the big show arrives, and Miku steps onto the stage and sings like a true star, dazzling the audience with her voice. Unfortunately for her, her friends refuse to participate since she used her powers to force them to obey. Because of that, Kotori decides they will respond in the same way, creating their own rules to confront her. During the concert, Miku transforms into a spirit form in the middle of the stage, singing with intense aura, which enchants the entire audience and throws our heroes into despair, realizing they have no chance of winning. But the twins appear to help, since as spirits they are not affected by Miku's powers. At the same time, Dem sends soldiers to eliminate the spirits present at the festival. More than 30 of them are ready for the attack. Origami, however, was already expecting that, so she uses her ability, whose name I forgot, and surprises Jessica, who is shocked to realize Origami is able to manipulate that equipment. Origami charges at the soldiers, defeating many of them and putting Jessica in a desperate and complicated position. Jessica ends up requesting reinforcements, but the AST captain informs her that by superior orders he cannot send help, leaving Jessica stunned. Kotori and Rin notice the movement, and Rin decides to check the situation. Meanwhile, Shido and his friends prepare to go on stage, and they are extremely nervous about performing in front of a crowd. The twins, on the other hand, are completely calm, since they had already trained a lot with their instruments because of the battles they used to fight against each other. Toka, however, only knows how to play her tambourine, and then their turn arrives. When Shido tries to start the playback, he realizes the system was sabotaged and the sound does not work. This is pure terror. Shido freezes, not knowing what to do. It is then that Toka steps forward and begins to sing, encouraging Shido to join her. The two improvise and end up delivering a spectacular performance in front of the entire crowd. At the same time, Origami continues her fierce battle against Jessica and Dem's forces. However, Origami reaches the limit of her stamina, and just when the enemy reinforcements arrive, the fight turns against her. As the show ends, the voting begins to determine which school will win the festival. At first, it seemed that Miku's school had taken the lead, and she approaches Shido, ready to claim his powers as her reward for victory. But before she can do that, the final result is announced. Shido is the winner, since his maid cafe received the highest number of votes and the greatest affection from the audience. Miku is devastated. She simply cannot accept losing to someone like him. Shido tries to make her understand that defeat is part of life and offers her the chance to join his group. But Miku refuses, enraged, and she summons her angel, releasing powerful sound waves that make all of Shido's friends faint, turning the rest of the people into puppets under her control. Miku's sound waves completely immobilize Shido, no longer caring about the bet. She approaches to take all his powers. However, as soon as she starts touching him, she realizes something horrifying: this Shiori is actually a boy. In shock, Miku screams for her fans to get rid of him immediately. Before they can hurt him, the other girls appear, determined to protect him. They manage to pull him out of the crowd just in time, since they were wearing ear protectors that prevented them from falling under the effect of the sound wave. Unfortunately, the same did not happen to Kotori, and the sound hits her and all the Fraxinus crew, who end up hypnotized and turned into Miku's marionettes. Under her control, they also begin trying to destroy Shido, and Rin attempts to stop them, but the number of opponents is far too large for her alone. When Kotori is about to do something desperate, Mana awakens and stops her. Meanwhile, Origami is about to be executed by Dem. However, before that happens, Mana arrives to defend her. She launches a powerful attack against Jessica, who is shocked to see that Mana is betraying Westcott. With ease, Mana defeats Jessica, allowing Origami and the others to escape. At the same time, Shido is attacked by his own classmates. Everyone except Toka is under Miku's control. At this moment, Ellen appears ready to capture Toka and Shido, but before she succeeds, Toka pushes Shido away and faces Ellen alone. Without all of her powers, Toka ends up defeated, and Shido has no choice but to run, as Miku's puppets take to the streets in search of him. During his escape, Kirimi emerges from the shadows, and Shido knows she wants his life, but he also understands she is his only hope of saving Toka. So he swallows his pride and asks for her help, which surprises Kirimi. Meanwhile, Toka wakes up and realizes she is now inside Dem's facilities. Ellen greets her coldly, welcoming her and starting the interrogation. At the same time, Kirimi understands that to help Shido, she must deal with Miku first, so the two head to Miku's home in search of something that might help them. There, Kirimi enjoys teasing the protagonist, trying to make him act like a girl again, since he seemed to miss it. During their search, they find a photo of Miku, and Kirimi uses her power to access her memories, discovering everything she needs. They quickly head toward Miku's location, and Miku is completely shocked to see him again. She never expected Shido to have the courage to face her head-on, and Kirimi helps him clear the path, confronting Miku's fans with her timeless power. Using her time-devouring castle, Kirimi creates rifts and portals that allow them to advance deeper and deeper into the concert, which infuriates Miku. She decides to sing even louder to regain the advantage. When Shido and Kirimi finally reach the stage, Miku reveals that she does not need her puppets to be alive to control them, so she awakens the entire audience in the hall, turning them into soldiers in her favor. Kirimi is forced to use all her power at once to protect Shido. She summons dozens of clones and engages in a fierce battle, trying to buy Shido time while restraining Miku and fighting the other girls. This gives Shido the chance to retreat to an isolated place where he tries to convince Kirimi to help him rescue Toka, but Kirimi ends up not believing him. She remembers that, in the past, humans betrayed her, and says she no longer trusts anyone. When Shido tries to ask what happened, Kirimi's time runs out, forcing her to vanish along with her clone. Even frustrated for not obtaining her full help, Kirimi leaves one last piece of information. She knows where Toka is being held. Meanwhile, Toka continues being interrogated, now facing Isaac and Westcott himself. The leader of Dem, he makes it clear that he wants only one thing: her power to dominate the world. To achieve this goal, he must break Toka's spirit, make her lose her mind and fall into despair, and upon realizing that harming Shido is the key to doing that, Westcott orders them to find him. They depart and leave Toka unconscious. At that moment, Kirimi and Shido arrive at the location, and as they prepare a plan to rescue Toka, an alarm of spatial distortion echoes throughout the entire facility. It is the signal that Dem is preparing to eliminate any witnesses of the massacre that is about to occur. Kirimi, with a dark smile, begins her attack, summoning dozens of clones and launching her offensive against the combatants. The true Kirimi uses the chaos to distract the androids and the Dem magicians, allowing her and Shido to infiltrate the buildings. Obviously, none of this will be easy, but before they can advance, a shot hits Kirimi, and the one responsible for the shot is Mana. Her presence there shows how dangerous the mission is, and upon realizing that Shido is now beside his own sister, Kirimi decides to leave them and attend to her own matters inside Dem. Before leaving, she hands Shido her transmitter, allowing him to communicate with Kotori again. Meanwhile, Miku is still shaken by Shido's words, so she begins to reflect on whether what he said about risking his own life to save Toka was truly sincere. Curious, she asks the other girls if they believe he would actually do that, and is surprised when all of them agree without hesitation, affirming that Shido would never abandon anyone. Back with Shido, he argues with Katori about whether it is truly a good idea to invade Dem's facility to rescue Toka. Knowing Katori will not give up, Mana decides to help him, and together they approach the entrance of the base. On the other hand, Origami tries to go assist Shido, but is stopped by one of her companions. She can no longer use her power. Meanwhile, Shido and Mana end up encountering Jessica, who is now equipped with her new power, an improved version of Origami's armor. With this new power, Jessica confronts Mana, opening the path for Shido, who manages to enter Dem's facility. Inside the building, Shido is quickly surrounded by soldiers. They attack him and restrain him, and when everything seems lost, he remembers Toka's words and summons the sword. It appears in a burst of light and delivers a devastating strike, freeing him. Even so, one of the soldiers manages to wound him before he continues his search. But even injured, he walks through the corridors, weaker at each step, until he is cornered again. When he is about to be captured, Miku appears, and she uses her voice to order the other girls to deal with the magicians outside, while she escorts Shido deeper into the base. Outside, the battle between Mana and Jessica continues, but Jessica, completely overwhelmed by the excessive absorption of Mana's power, has lost her sanity. To make things worse, Ellen arrives to assist her, putting Mana in serious danger. Before they can finish her, Origami appears, saves Mana, and confronts Ellen to clear a path to the protagonist. Back with Shido, he thanks Miku for the help, and as they advance through the corridors, they interrogate the captured soldiers, since they want to discover where Toka is being kept. But Shido can barely remain standing, even with Katori's attempts to heal him from a distance. Miku notices this and tries to convince him to stop, saying he is acting like a fairy tale prince who thinks he can save everyone alone. Even so, Shido refuses to give up. Annoyed by his stubbornness, Miku begins to mock him. Tired, Shido confronts her, asking why she treats all humans with so much contempt. Miku tries to justify herself, but he realizes that deep down she is human as well, so she begins to tell her story. In the past, Miku was an ordinary idol, loved by her fans, but over time a producer insisted on meeting with her, and when she refused, he spread lies about her life, destroying her reputation. Miku lost everything: fans, career, self-esteem, and ever since then she began to hate all humans. Shido listens in silence, trying to make her understand that her suffering is not an excuse to hate the entire world. But Miku bursts into anger when she hears that. Even so, Shido promises to save her, no matter what happens. Miku says she does not want him to seal her powers, because that would leave her empty again, just like when she was betrayed by others. But Shido insists, stating that even if she loses everything, he will stay by her side, listen to her songs, and never abandon her. His words leave her in shock, and for the first time Miku hesitates, surprised to hear something like that from someone she swore she despised. Meanwhile, Origami continues fighting Helen. Her armor is simpler and weaker, so she must rely on intelligence to compensate. Even so, Helen's strength is overwhelming, and at the moment Origami is about to fall, Katori arrives with the Fraxinus, providing aerial support and opening a chance for her to fight once again. But then Helen receives a new order, a direct call from Westcott. At the same time, Shido finally reaches the place where Toka is being held, and there he also finds Isaac and Westcott. Upon seeing him, Westcott is surprised. He does not believe Shido reached that point alone, assuming everything is the work of a mysterious woman behind the scenes. Even so, he has no intention of freeing Toka, since he is not skilled in combat. Westcott chooses to simply release her in order to create a distraction, raising a magical barrier between them and giving Helen time to attack Shido. Toka, realizing the danger, summons her sword and tries to break through the barrier to save him. But no matter how hard she tries, she cannot. Each strike she delivers proves useless, and despair begins to consume her. When she sees Shido about to die, Toka finally breaks, and in that instant, the inversion of her Sephira begins. Her heart is overtaken by negative emotions, and her spiritual energy distorts completely. Westcott smiles, spreading his arms in greeting, saying, "Welcome, Demon King." Moments later, Toka awakens, but she is no longer herself. Confused, not knowing where she is or what happened, she finds herself before Westcott, who, indifferent, orders Helen to handle her. Helen shows no surprise, as if she expected it. Meanwhile, Mana continues fighting Jessica, who is completely out of control, overwhelmed by her own power. She attacks endlessly, trying to kill Mana in any way she can. But the price of using that power is too high, and the armor begins consuming her vitality, tearing her body apart little by little. Even so, she does not stop. Driven mad by envy, she screams that she always wanted to be recognized the way Mana was, but the world never gave her that chance. In the middle of her attacks, she completely loses control of her armor and, in the end, dies in Mana's arms, leaving behind only silence and regret. Meanwhile, Toka, now in her demonic form, fights Helen. The difference in power is absurd. Toka barely needs any effort to repel the commander's attacks, unleashing a wave of energy so intense it makes the ground tremble. Helen and Westcott are forced to retreat. Even wounded from her fight against Origami, Toka is far too powerful to be contained in that moment. Before leaving, Westcott simply watches Shido from a distance and, with a cold smile, says this was only the first step, vanishing right after. When silence returns to the area, Katori contacts Shido again, explaining Toka's condition. She tells him she is not certain they will be able to seal her powers this time. The objective is simple: rescue her. But when they try to approach, Toka attacks them violently. Miku tries to restrain her with her sound waves, giving Shido time to act. But Toka is far too strong. She breaks through Miku's control with ease and unleashes a devastating strike toward her. In that instant, flashes of the past run through Miku's mind, memories of everything she lived, of her pain, of her regret for never having met someone like Shido before. Her emotions spread across the battlefield, awakening the other girls, who regain consciousness. They quickly join Origami, who updates all of them on the current situation. Meanwhile, Miku realizes that Shido threw himself in front of the attack to save her, and that gesture shakes her deeply. And for the first time, she understands what he truly meant. She realizes that he genuinely cares about her, and Toka's energy shifts. She summons a new sword, with a very strange name that I will not even try to say. Miku screams for him to run and leave her behind, but before anything can happen, Yoshino appears, joining them. Even so, Toka unleashes a single attack, and the explosion destroys everything around. Shido would have been struck, but the twins appeared at the last moment and saved him. When he is placed back on the ground, Toka begins to remember the voices, the moments, the time she spent with him. Shido approaches slowly, without hesitation. He kisses her, and she becomes very confused by this gesture, unable to understand why someone would kiss the enemy in the middle of a battle. But little by little, that gesture begins to break the chaos in her mind. The memories return, the warmth, the laughter, the kindness. Everything slowly comes back, and she regains her consciousness. In tears, Toka thanks Shido for saving her once again, and on the other side, Kurumi watches from afar. She did not find what she was looking for, and silently disappears into the shadows, fading from everyone's sight. Sometime after this incident, Shido meets Miku, and this time she treats him with tenderness and sweetness, recognizing that he is different from any other man she has ever known. To her, Shido is someone truly special. Miku slowly approaches Shido and kisses him, finally sealing her powers, thus fulfilling the promise they had made. Even if no one else hears her songs, she knows that Shido will always be there to listen to them. Soon after, Miku steps onto the stage, but this time not as the spirit Miku, but as the true Miku, the person behind the voice. She sings with her heart open, ending everything and publicly revealing her feelings, saying that she loves Shido with body, soul, and heart. Sometime later, Shido meets Kurumi once again, and to his surprise, she invites him on a date. The most unexpected thing is that now she has a very different behavior, sweet and innocent, very different from the Kurumi he knew. At first, Shido refuses, suspicious of her intentions, and Kurumi, hurt, asks if he hates her or simply does not trust her. Not wanting to see her cry, he ends up accepting the invitation, and Kurumi takes him to a festival. Shido believes that all of this hides some secret plan, but he gradually realizes that she is truly enjoying herself. They walk through the booths, tasting typical foods, playing and laughing, and for the first time, he had truly smiled. Kurumi seems like another person, genuinely happy. Even so, Shido had no idea what she really had in mind. Later, they watch a theatrical performance that tells an ancient Japanese legend about two lovers, separated by destiny, who could only reunite when it rained. The story leaves Kurumi visibly shaken, and she comments that with time, the pain of separation may disappear, but along with it, the memories as well. And that would condemn them to never recognize each other again, even if they crossed paths in the future. Shido tries to comfort her, smiling, answering that they could simply meet in secret, just like they are doing now. Kurumi laughs sincerely, with a rare shine in her eyes, and her laughter draws the attention of the audience, and the two end up having to leave the performance in a hurry. While walking, Kurumi sees a bridal shop. Enchanted, she pulls him by the hand and convinces him to go inside. She says she wants to create memories with him, something that lasts even if time separates them. What they do not know is that, at the same time, Katori, Yoshino, and Toka are at the same festival, searching for him, eager to see him. During the search, Toka notices a mural filled with tanzaku, those small strips of paper with written wishes. Naturally, she and Yoshino decide to participate, and Katori accompanies them. After writing their wishes, the three follow different paths to find Shido. While walking, Yoshino talks with her puppet, Ashinan, who jokingly comments that Shido is a pervert, and that she should be careful in case she finds him with another girl. Yoshino laughs, thinking that such a thing is impossible, until, by chance, she actually sees him with Kirimi. Curious, Yoshino begins to follow them discreetly, but Kirimi notices her presence and appears right in front of her. With a sweet and unsettling smile at the same time, she says that the bond between her and Shido is deep and intimate and that no one will erase it. Embarrassed, Yoshino is left speechless and ends up fleeing, blushing. Right after, Kirimi convinces the shop attendant to let them enter, and Shido, distracted by Katori's call, is led inside. When he arrives, he finds Kirimi dressed in a stunning wedding gown. She explains that she told the receptionist she had a terminal illness and that this would be the last special moment of her life. And Shido is left speechless, but he cannot hide how beautiful she is. They take a picture together, looking like a newly married couple. Meanwhile, Yoshino tells everything to Toka, and when Katori discovers that Kirimi is with Shido, she becomes furious. She orders the girls to find him as fast as possible, before something goes wrong. And back to the pair, Shido is still trying to understand what is happening. The Kirimi standing before him is completely different from the cunning and unpredictable version he knows. On the way back, they pass by a wish booth, where they write their own tanzaku. They read the wishes left by the other girls, and Kirimi, however, hides her own wish, keeping it in silence. When the day ends, Kirimi remembers the story of the two lovers and asks if they will also be able to meet again, no matter what happens. She asks Shido not to forget her, and in that moment, the truth comes to light. The real Kirimi appears before them. The Kirimi who spent the entire day with Shido was only one of her clones. A copy that, with time, developed its own feelings for him from their very first encounter. But Kirimi, being who she is, could not allow a part of herself to grow so attached to a human. And with a sad and melancholic look, she points a gun at the clone. She states that she had a beautiful day, but that this version's time has ended. The shot echoes softly, and the clone disappears in a rain of golden light. Shido is left alone with the memory of that encounter, which perhaps never truly happened, but which, for him, was real enough to never be forgotten. At that moment, Shido's friends also appear to help him, but Kirimi simply disappears, leaving behind the tanzaku, the wish paper of her clone. Seeing that Shido does not hesitate, he runs to the tallest tree in the place and ties it to the highest branch, ensuring that her wish becomes reality. With that, he promises himself that he will never forget her. Sometime later, we see Shido walking calmly down the street, not noticing that at the crossing ahead, a mysterious girl also appears. Neither of them pays attention to the other, they simply pass. Then the scene shifts to a new Miku concert, where she is singing and exciting not only the fans, but also her friends. After the concert, the entire group goes to a pool, where everyone plays, has fun, and relaxes, except for Shido and Miku, who prefer to talk alone. Shido, worried, comments that he thinks it was excessive for them to reserve the entire pool just for themselves. Meanwhile, the twins start another argument, now about who follows Toka's and Origami's advice better. At the end of the day, everyone leaves the place, and Miku offers to drive them home, but they prefer to go on their own, since the group is very large. The boys take the train, and at that moment, Shido feels something strange. He sees, for only a second, the same mysterious girl who had crossed his path earlier. Everything indicates that she is following him. The next day, Shido wakes up normally, but is surprised to see a huge sphere floating in the sky. He immediately contacts Katori, and together they discover that only he can see it. Even so, the system confirms that there is a large concentration of spiritual waves in the area, one for each of the girls whose powers Shido sealed. While everyone at Fraxinus tries to understand what is happening, they raise a hypothesis. Perhaps this anomaly is the result of the accumulated stress among all the girls. Since Shido needs to please all of them to maintain harmony, each one ends up wanting to keep him for herself, including Katori. That is why Riani suggests that he go on individual dates with each one, to ease the emotional imbalance and reduce the weight of the sphere. Reluctantly, he ends up agreeing. However, without anyone noticing, Riani secretly activates the Kirk system. Later, at home, Shido gathers all the girls and explains the situation. To decide the order of the dates, they hold a lottery. Kaguya is first and Toka is last. Everyone promises not to sabotage each other's dates and to do their best to make Shido enjoy himself. Meanwhile, he sees the mysterious girl from the train again, but just like before, she disappears quickly. From the top of a building, Kirimi watches everything from the shadows, and the day of the first date arrives. Kaguya is very excited and takes Shido to an art gallery, which surprises him. The calm atmosphere seems to relax the girl, and she shows a more sensitive side. Then, they visit a shop where she asks him to buy a pendant that caught her attention. Later, Kaguya remembers Origami's advice to take Shido to the special place. Except the plan goes wrong when Yusuru decides to interfere and accidentally takes him to a love hotel for couples, leaving both of them completely embarrassed. Even so, the date ends well and they say goodbye smiling. The next date is with Katori, which sparks bets among the Fraxinus crew about how it will turn out. When the day arrives, everyone expected something grand, but the date ends up being very simple. Katori takes him to the market, like in the old days, before Shido joined this entire mess. The difference is in the details. This time, Katori wears a white ribbon in green and black, showing her sweetest, most caring, and most vulnerable side, the one that only appears when she is relaxed. Since they are being watched, they end up inviting Yoshino and Toka to join them for a meal. During lunch, Shido sees the mysterious girl again and, driven by curiosity, he goes after her. But instead of her, the one who appears is Kirimi. She can also see the sphere in the sky, but she does not reveal what she knows about it. She only warns Shido that a person's heart is something not even she herself can fully understand. Soon after, the unknown girl runs off, disappearing once again before everyone's eyes. Time passes and the day of Toka's date arrives, and Shido, anxious, arrives 15 minutes early, but discovers that Toka had already been there for an hour, waiting for him nervously. She assures him it will be a fun date and reveals her plan, which is to spend the entire day eating. After all, she noticed that during the dates they barely had time to enjoy the meals. The mysterious girl watches everything from a distance once again, and while Shido and Toka have lunch at a restaurant, that same girl suddenly appears, acting as if nothing happened, now beside Origami, who shows concern because Shido did not show up for his scheduled medical appointment. Before she can do anything, her colleagues arrive to take her to the hospital, but Origami escapes them, determined to find Shido on her own. Later, they go to a place where Shido once saved Toka, a special place for the two of them. Then, once again, the mysterious girl appears, and Shido approaches her, asking who she truly is and what she wants. She calmly replies that her name is Mayuri and that she is the administrator of Kiryu-Beal, a giant angel that took the form of that sphere in the sky. Mayuri explains that her existence has one single purpose, which is to test whether Shido's body and heart are worthy of holding the power of all the girls. As soon as the trial ended, she would cease to exist. But before they can continue, Kiryu-Beal loses control and fires an attack toward Shido. He manages to dodge at the last moment, while the gigantic angel becomes visible to everyone. With that, all the girls prepare for battle. Katori activates the Fraxinus and commands the aerial offensive, while Mikyu remains by her side to protect Shido. Mayuri tries to restrain the angel, not understanding why it is acting on its own, but the chaos only increases. The girls join forces, attacking together, but they notice that their attacks have no effect. Katori unleashes the Fraxinus' most powerful attack, a devastating energy beam, but Kiryu-Beal blocks it effortlessly with its wings of light. Next, the angel captures Mayuri in midair, and while she is imprisoned, Mayuri cries as she watches everyone being defeated because of her. At that moment, Katori detects new spiritual waves that, to everyone's surprise, belong to Mayuri herself. Riani quickly understands what is happening. Mayuri was born from the combined power of all the girls, but after watching Shido go out on dates with each of them, she ended up developing envy. This emotion caused Kiryu-Beal to lose control, and determined to end the suffering. Mana leaves the ship, ready to eliminate the angel once and for all, but Shido stops her. He stands in front of her and shouts for her not to kill Mayuri, since she is part of all of them. Moved by his sincerity, the group reacts, and the girls begin to shine intensely, and their spiritual energies rise to their limit, fueled by Shido's desire to save Mayuri. United, they launch him through Kiryu-Beal's energy beams, opening a path to the center. Shido manages to reach Mayuri and free her, but the angel absorbs the released energy and becomes even more powerful, devastating much of the area. Even so, they realize there is a chance. If all of them unite their powers, they can defeat him. Mayuri, Toka, and each of the others transfer part of their energy to strengthen the bond between the spirits. Kiryu-Beal tries to stop them, but Mana and Shido face it together. Before he is gravely injured, Toka undergoes a new transformation, and an intense aura surrounds her as she gains enough power to confront the angel directly. Even then, Kiryu-Beal regenerates after every strike, and it is then that Mayuri makes her decision. She approaches Shido and kisses him, breaking the seal on his body and fully releasing Toka's power. With her strength restored, Toka delivers a final strike, destroying Kiryu-Beal. As the angel dissolves, Mayuri begins to fade away with him, and she smiles serenely, telling Shido that she cannot hate him, because from the moment she was born, she always loved him, and all she ever wanted was to stay by his side. She thanks Shido for giving her a reason to exist, and with one last look, she disappears into the light, finally at peace. After a few days, Shido and Toka meet to talk. He believes Mayuri did not vanish completely, and that a part of her lives inside all the girls, since she came from their power. Meanwhile, the other girls plan the next round of dates with Shido, and when he realizes what is happening, he immediately runs away, leaving all of them laughing as they chase him. Sometime later, the girls prepare a special stew for Shido. Each one adds her favorite ingredients, resulting in a doubtful mixture with a very strange appearance. Even so, Shido makes an effort and takes the first spoonful, and to everyone's surprise, including his own, the taste is delicious. The girls smile and start eating excitedly, regretting only that Miku could not come. But Miku seems to have heard everything, because suddenly she appears at the door with a smile. Apologizing for being late, she asks if there is still some left for her. While everyone gathers to eat, a silent figure watches from outside. Origami standing still under the rain, listening to the laughter coming from inside the house. She gives a faint smile, and we already know something will happen very soon. Miku, mischievous as always, pretends she burned her lips with the stew, and uses that as an excuse to try to make Shido kiss her. The gesture draws the attention of the other girls, and a few seconds later, they all start imitating her, turning the meal into complete chaos. Before things get worse, Origami arrives with Shido and brings a stew she cooked herself. However, when everyone tastes it, they realize hers is even worse than the others. And right after that, an alarm echoes through the Fraxinus, indicating the presence of spiritual waves. Shido wastes no time and heads immediately to the indicated location, and the anomaly leads him to a completely destroyed area, one of the places where the first spacequake occurred 30 years ago. Walking among the ruins, he sees an ancient castle, and inside he encounters a new spirit named Natsumi. She slowly approaches, and with a very shy look, asks if he thinks she is beautiful. Without hesitation, Shido says yes, and she blushes with a smile. And as he keeps complimenting her, her expression brightens. Every word makes her happier and more confident, but that peace lasts only a moment, because the spirit hunters appear, surrounding them. To defend herself, Natsumi summons her angel, a magical power capable of turning weapons and projectiles into adorable things like toys and plushies. However, one of the shots manages to break through her defense and hits something in her body, shattering part of her spiritual energy. Her happiness gauge plummets and her expression changes completely. Upset and wounded, Natsumi believes Shido saw her true form, something she considers horrible. Furious, she screams that from that moment on, her life is doomed. The next day, Shido goes to school as if nothing happened, but to his surprise, all the other girls in the classroom are angry at him, accusing him of doing absurd things like lifting their skirts and touching them. Confused, he tries to defend himself, saying he never did any of that, but no one believes him. Origami arrives right after, and since he has not done anything to her yet, she jokes saying she wants to be the next one marked by Shido. But she is not alone. Kaguya and Yuzuru also appear furious, complaining that Shido soaked their clothes and even stole their underwear during training. Not understanding anything, the pervert runs away. While escaping, he sees another person identical to him and, shocked, decides to follow him to the school rooftop. There, the truth comes out: the identical figure is Natsumi, who transformed into his perfect copy. She smiles, saying the imitation was flawless, and that if he disappears now, no one will notice the difference. Before anything worse happens, Toka and Origami arrive, and the witch tries to fool them, claiming the real Shido is the imposter, but neither of them falls for the trick. Realizing she was discovered, Natsumi abandons her transformation and flees, flying away on her broom. 5 days pass with no sign of her, until Shido receives a mysterious letter, and inside it are 12 photographs, all of people he knows. The message is clear: she wants him to discover who she is before everyone disappears one by one. Natsumi could take the appearance of any of them, and, meanwhile, at DEM, the executives discuss Westcott's action. They accuse him of acting selfishly and abusing the company's resources during the incidents in Japan. They then decide to vote to remove him from the board. But before the vote ends, Ellen enters the room. She attacks everyone who dares vote against Westcott, and he watches calmly, stating that he does not care about selling or destroying his own company as long as he achieves what he wants. He has waited far too long to give up now. And back on the Fraxinus, Shido tries to understand what Natsumi wants with that dangerous game. Katori fears it may be a situation similar to Kurumi's, where everyone ends up being attacked one by one. But Shido feels Natsumi is different. He spent enough time with the girl to sense that behind that appearance, there is an insecure and lonely girl, not a murderer. Together with Ryumi, they come up with a plan to discover who the real Natsumi is. Shido, as always, will need to go on dates with each person shown in the photos. Different from last time, now the first date is with Toka and, during the outing, He begins to suspect she is Natsumi in disguise, and when he accuses her, Toka becomes offended, not understanding anything. Realizing his mistake, Shido quickly changes the subject. The guy is quick. He pretends everything was only a test and, to make up for it, invites her to dinner at a restaurant. At first, everything seems normal, but he notices something very strange. Toka is eating very little, and this girl does not refuse food. Suspicious, he starts to think he might be facing the imposter. But when she explains that she saw in a documentary that girls who eat too much are rejected, Shido smiles, realizing this is without a doubt the real Toka. He reassures her, saying she does not need to change to please anyone. She can eat as much as she wants, since that is part of what makes her who she is. Toka smiles with relief and returns to eating with her usual enthusiasm. Soon after, Shido returns home, where Yoshino is already waiting for him. She appears at the door, dressed as a little witch, smiling, asking for trick or treat. Since Shido has no candy nearby, he improvises and offers her some pancakes, the same ones she ate the first time she visited his house. Yoshino becomes delighted and shares the pancakes with Shido, and when she notices a drop of syrup running down his cheek, she leans in and licks his face to clean it. As soon as she realizes what she did, she turns red with embarrassment and runs away. And where is the FBI at times like this? Shido then smiles, certain that she is the real Yoshino, and later he goes to Tanamachi. But he does not notice any difference in her, so he decides to move to the next date with Yuzuru. She receives him slightly irritated since he made her wait, but the atmosphere soon changes. They meet at night in a high place with a beautiful view of the city. During the date, Yuzuru asks with a smile if he had to choose between her and Kaguya, whom he would choose. Shido hesitates, saying he would not be able to choose between either of them. And he is right. The two are practically identical, so there is not much to choose from. The answer seems to leave her slightly disappointed, and Yuzuru explains that if he had chosen Kaguya, even if it upset her, she would have found his attitude sincere. And if he had chosen her, she would have been happy. Clearly, even if it were only a lie. Before they say goodbye, Yuzuru asks him to tell Kaguya that he chose her. She knows her sister will become irritated, but deep down, she will be happy in a certain way. Without noticing, she lets slip that both she and her sister love the protagonist, which was already obvious. Embarrassed, she runs away, leaving Shido with the confirmation that she is also real. Later, already at home, Shido talks to his sister Katori about everything that happened, and although he has not felt anything strange yet, both know it is only a matter of time until Natsumi acts again. Katori tries to hide it, but she is excited and anxious for her own date with her brother, which is a bit bizarre. However, before they can relax, the witch's game begins. Natsumi once again activates her angel and launches another round of attacks. Shortly after, Kaguya appears desperate, saying that Yuzuru has disappeared. Shido tries to keep her calm, and together they analyze the recordings from the twins' house. And in them, it is possible to see Natsumi's angel taking Yuzuru away. Determined, the protagonist promises to rescue all of them before it is too late. But in the following days, he only discovers how powerless he is before the witch's strength. The day of the meeting with Katori finally arrives, and the two are still very worried. But Katori tries to distract her brother with the lighter atmosphere. During the outing, Shido has an idea, wondering if she is truly the real Katori. He tries to kiss her, but in fact this is a trick to pull off the red ribbons and see if she would return to commander mode. The plan goes wrong, and he only manages to make her furious and embarrassed. Later, he meets with the three classmates who always spoke badly of him, determined to get closer and clean up his image. Then he meets his teacher, who still remembers, in a provocative tone, the time when Shido asked her to marry him. At night, it is time for the date with Kaguya, and they go bowling. As expected, she defeats him easily. Afterward, the two sit down to rest, and Kaguya lays her head on Shido's lap. While she is using him as a pillow, the tone ends up changing, and she begins to cry, saying she is very worried about Yuzuru. She begs Shido to save her, saying he is the only one who can do that. Later, he returns to Katori's house, and Shido remains worried for not having found Natsume. They deduce that she may be watching them from somewhere, and they are right. The witch appears floating before them and proposes a challenge. She tells Shido that if he truly knows her and says who she is, Shido thinks and answers firmly that she is Yoshino. For a moment, it seems to be the right answer, but Natsume only smiles and disappears without saying anything. Shortly after, the team receives an alarming piece of news. Yoshino and a classmate named Yamabuki have disappeared. The next day, the final date arrives. Shido goes with Origami, and they go to the movies. As always, Origami tries to act cold and calculating, but her intentions become clear between the lines. When the movie ends, they return home, and at the door Toka greets him worried. She has not been able to see him in recent days. While they talk, a strange man approaches, introducing himself as Liad. He asks for direction, but Shido notices something different in his gaze. it was only an excuse. That man clearly knew them. After this encounter, Toka says goodbye to him with a smile. But when Shido arrives home, he realizes something is wrong. Toka did not return home. This can only mean one thing. Natsume has decided to make another one of her victims. This time, however, the witch wants to end the game. She appears before Shido and proposes a final challenge. If he manages to guess who she is, she will free everyone she took. But if he is wrong, she will take all who remain, and he will never see them again. Meanwhile, we see Natsume in her own space, an isolated dimension, watching Shido's despair with an eager smile. She is very happy imagining his reaction when he discovers her secret. At the same time, Liad or Elliot, whatever this guy's name is, I will call him Elliot, appears meeting with another mysterious prisoner, and the conversation between them reveals that the two have known each other for a long time, indicating something much larger happening behind the scenes. Back on the Fraxinus, Shido gathers with his friends and explains the situation. They try to figure out who or what Natsume might be transforming into, and Origami believes she is using loopholes in the rules themselves. Maybe she is not transformed into a person, but instead into an object. Suddenly, Natsume appears once again, floating before them, and giving Shido 3 chances to guess. He believes she is hiding among the people she kidnapped, as a way to protect herself. On the first attempt, Shido says she is Yuzuru, but Natsume laughs, and as punishment, she makes Origami disappear. On the second attempt, he chooses one of his classmates, but he is wrong once again. Frightened, everyone begins to fear the worst, and a nervous Miku throws one of her accessories and hands it to Shido, telling him to keep it, since if she disappears, at least that object will prove she existed. These words end up giving Shido an idea. He notices a pattern, and concludes that Natsume is not disguised as one of the girls, but instead as Yoshino's puppet. Upon hearing the name, Natsume freezes. His guess is correct, and the seal breaks. In a flash, all the girls return. But along with that, Natsume's true form is revealed. A little girl with a fragile appearance, timid eyes, and a shy expression. Humiliated for having her secret exposed, Natsume screams in anger. In an act of pure frustration, she unleashes her angel again, transforming all the girls into their child versions. The next day, poor Shido finds himself completely overwhelmed. Now he needs to take care of a bunch of mischievous children, miniature versions of several girls, and unable to handle everything. He calls Ren and Rin to help him. Even so, Rin admits she has not managed to locate the real Natsume. Meanwhile, Westcott begins to act. He plans to eliminate each one of the spirits surrounding Shido, starting with Natsume herself. For that, he orders Ellen to execute the mission personally. And at school, the chaos continues. These child versions of the girls spend the entire time teasing Shido, pretending to be his daughters, and, to his despair, the class finds it hilarious. But what seems like a joke soon becomes a nightmare. Objects begin to change shape and clothes disappear. Even Shido's house starts to distort. All of this is the result of Natsume's illusions. Meanwhile, inside them, the remaining directors debate what to do about Westcott. They begin developing a plan to remove him from power. And back on the Fraxinus, Shido tries to rest after the chaotic day. But he has a very strange dream. A mixture of memories and childish laughter echoes in the darkness. When he wakes up, Natsume pulls another one of her pranks, transforming the girls into cute bunnies, while Shido appears dressed as a rabbit tamer. While everyone tries to understand what is happening, Rin finally manages to track Natsume's location. The witch notices she is being followed and tries to escape, but ends up encountering Ellen and her dem companion. Even so, Natsume fights with courage, and with a wave of her staff, she transforms the enemy's attacks into toys, and even turns Ellen into her child version as well. But even small, Ellen is dangerous and manages to injure Natsume, and her disguise falls apart. The witch collapses to the ground, wounded and powerless, completely at her mercy. When everything seemed lost, Toka and the other girls appear to help her. And Shido also arrives, confronting Ellen to protect Natsume, and I am sure Shido is eager to put Natsume in his harem as well. Ellen, however, does not seem too worried, until Miku uses her power to mentally manipulate the Dem soldier, forcing them to turn against Ellen herself, creating the perfect distraction for everyone to escape. Furious, Ellen swears she will take revenge, but silently she begins considering an idea: to use the girls themselves as pawns in Westcott's plan. Meanwhile, inside Dem, an employee suggests a bold plan: to eliminate Westcott once and for all. He wants to bring down all the satellites over the city where he is, turning them into weapons. Elsewhere, Origami is in trouble. Hunted by spirit hunters, she is forced to fight and flee alone, vanishing into the alleys. Back on the Fraxinus, Shido watches Natsume, now confined and recovering. She sleeps silently inside a capsule, completely calm, and with a serene face for the first time in her life. Even after everything that happened, Shido can only smile. He is surely thinking he will add another one to his harem. He thinks to himself that she only wanted to be accepted. But before Shido enters to speak with her, Kotori warns him, asking him to be careful. since she seems very unstable. Inside the room, Natsume stares at him with a cold and frustrated look. She complains, saying she hates the fact that he knows her true form, the childish appearance she tries so hard to hide. She says no one looks at her and no one loves her when she is like that. Shido tries to understand the reason for her anger, since he likes that form, without a doubt, but his questions only irritate her further. It becomes clear that sealing her powers now would be practically impossible. Even so, while hearing her words, Shido begins to realize something very important. Natsume prefers to hide behind appearances of other people, because she is ashamed of who she truly is. And with that, an idea begins to form in his mind. She cannot get Shido's words out of her head, and her face grows warm and her heart beats faster. At that moment, the boy appears unexpectedly and takes her to the other girls. They propose an interesting challenge. If they manage to make the girl cute, they win. But if they fail, she can leave. Curious, Natsume accepts without thinking twice, and thus begins a transformation unlike any of the previous one. Miku is the first she handles the massage, and with her gentle touch, she makes Natsume relax completely, to the point of falling asleep. Then it is the twins' turn, Kaguya and Yusuru. With scissors and hair dryers, they cut and shape the girl's hair, giving it a delicate and harmonious new style. Next, Yoshino and Kotori take her shopping, and amid laughter and comments, they help her choose pretty and feminine clothes, something that matches her true personality. And finally, Shido's turn arrives, who has a lot of experience being a femboy, since he has needed to disguise himself as a woman several times. He ends up applying makeup with surprising skill. When he finishes, everyone falls silent. Natsume looks at herself in the mirror and her eyes widen. She barely recognizes herself. She looks beautiful, but instead of smiling, she steps back, confused, wondering why they are doing this for her. Unable to handle all that affection, Natsume runs away. But when she tries to escape, she realizes she cannot outrun the feelings that awakened inside her. Meanwhile, somewhere else, poor Origami is on the run, exhausted and cornered. She ends up receiving a call from Ellen. She asks her to join them, since they can give her what she truly wants. And what she wants is the truth about the fire from 5 years ago. Even though she hesitates, Origami accepts. She knows that by infiltrating the organization, she will be able to discover what finally happened to her parents. Parallel to all of this, Dem's council reviews the preparations for the plan with the satellites. They are ready to fire, and if they do, the entire city will be destroyed. And back on the Fraxinus, Shido and Kotori talk about Natsume. They realize that despite her aggressive reactions, she seems very happy. Perhaps her problem is not anger, but a lack of self-esteem. While they try to think of a different way to help her, Natsume, isolated, concludes that all of that is nothing but falsehood. She thinks they are lying, mocking her. And even after everything everyone has done for her, she is still thinking this nonsense. It is unbelievable. Well, driven by doubt, she ends up summoning her angel once again, and transforms into Kotori, and here we go, starting the game all over again, right? With the appearance of the commander and little sister of our dear Shido. She goes to the girls and begins provoking them, asking what they think of this so-called Natsume. But the answers she receives leave her shocked. Not one of them calls her ugly, strange, or irritating. On the contrary, they all say the same thing, that Natsume is sweet and kind, and that she only needs to believe in herself, since everyone likes her. Even Shido, when questioned, answers sincerely, that he only wants to see her well, that he wants her to truly smile. That sentence completely disarms her, and confused, with her eyes full of tears, she runs away again, vanishing inside the ship. Shortly after, Shido is notified. Natsume has escaped from the Fraxinus, and without wasting time, he runs to the house where she lived before the incidents. But when he opens the door, what awaits him is not Natsume, but the end of this video. If you want the continuation of this wonderful anime, comment below what you want starting from part 2. Do not forget to hype the video if you are on your phone, and also leave a like to support us. If you watched until the end, do not forget to comment, since you know that if you do not comment, there will be no goth girl this weekend. So that is it. Stay with God, thank you, take care, and see you in the next video.